A white cop stops a black woman and accuses her of stealing the car she's driving. Without proof, he slaps on handcuffs, right there in her own neighborhood. But seconds later, he realizes who she really is, and everything changes. Watch till the end. This story will not waste your time. It was a peaceful Saturday morning in Brookhaven, a well-to-do suburb just northeast of Atlanta. The air smelled of freshly cut grass, and children's laughter echoed faintly in the distance. Judge Vanessa Clark, a 48-year-old African-American woman with a commanding yet graceful presence, stepped into her sleek black Lexus. She was dressed in a soft blue pantsuit, her dark curls tied back neatly. It wasn't a day for court. Today was her niece's piano recital, and Clark was running just a little late. She adjusted her rearview mirror and pulled out of her driveway, mentally reviewing the opening remarks she wanted to give her niece afterward. But her train of thought was interrupted when red and blue lights flooded her mirrors. "Is that for me?" she murmured, pulling to the curb just a few hundred feet from her home. She rolled down the window and waited, expecting a routine check. But what she received was far from it. The accusation officer, Alan Monroe, a white officer in his early 30s, approached the vehicle. His eyes were narrowed, his posture stiff. His hand rested on his weapon, not in threat, but not in comfort either. "License and registration, ma'am," he said with no greeting. Clark obliged, calmly handing over her documents. But Monroe didn't even glance at them. "I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle. This car matches the description of one reported stolen earlier this morning." "Officer, this car is registered in my name," Clark replied, her tone calm but firm. "You haven't even looked at my papers." "Ma'am," I said, "step out. Now." A crowd was beginning to gather. Neighbors, joggers, even a mother walking a dog. One teenager, sensing the tension, took out her phone and began recording. Clark got out, carefully. Her hands were visible, her voice measured. "You're making a mistake. I am Judge Vanessa Clark. This is my car. That's my home," she said, pointing back to the house. But Monroe wasn't listening. He radioed in for backup. And as two more officers pulled up moments later, he placed Clark in handcuffs. "This is standard procedure," he said coldly. The crowd grows. So does the outrage. Her wrists bound, Judge Clark stood tall. She didn't shout. She didn't plead. But her silence screamed. "Is this what it takes to be treated like a criminal?" A voice in the crowd said. "You're arresting a judge?" Another neighbor gasped. The crowd was now thick with phones pointed at Monroe. Some recognized Clark. She had lived in the community for years. Others just saw a black woman in handcuffs, treated like a thief in front of her own house. Officer Monroe was beginning to sweat. One of the backup officers finally ran the plate through the onboard computer. Moments later, the screen blinked. Vehicle registered to Vanessa L. Clark. No reports of theft, no issues, just the truth, confirmed too late. The uncuffing and the damage done. "There appears to be a mistake," Monroe finally muttered, uncuffing her. "You think?" Clark replied, not raising her voice. "You ignored my ID, my registration, my words. We had to be cautious, ma'am." She turned to the watching crowd and said clearly, "Caution without reason is just another word for bias." Her words rippled. Within an hour, the teenager's video was online. By sunset, it had 1.2 million views. Viral Justice Cable News picked up the story. Major anchors replayed the footage of a black judge being handcuffed in her own neighborhood. The juxtaposition was damning. Vanessa Clark, graduate of Howard Law, 10 years on the bench, mentor to hundreds. Alan Monroe, 3 years on the force, no formal complaints, until now. The police department was swift to react. Public pressure had cornered them. Monroe was placed on administrative leave. A press conference was called. "We regret the situation involving Judge Clark," said Police Chief Raymond McAdams. "We are conducting a full internal review." But apologies were not enough. Clark breaks her silence. Judge Clark, ever composed, agreed to one exclusive interview with journalist Ava Starks. On national TV, she didn't show anger. She showed something deeper, disappointment. "This is bigger than me. I had status, a home, proof, and I was still assumed guilty. What happens to the young man who doesn't have a title? What happens to the woman who can't afford a lawyer?" What did you feel in that moment? Ava asked. Sad, Clark replied, because I wasn't surprised. She ended with this. True justice isn't what we say in courtrooms. It's what we prove in our streets. Behind the badge, Officer Monroe's reflection. Monroe's face never appeared in interviews, but he wrote a letter. It arrived quietly at Clark's chambers 2 weeks later, handwritten, not stamped with departmental approval. Judge Clark, I was wrong. I acted out of bias even if I didn't mean to. My training failed you, but more than that, I failed myself. I've asked for reassignment, not to escape consequences, but to learn. I don't ask for forgiveness. I ask for change. Yours and others' courage has made me see what I refused to. She never responded publicly, but the letter was tucked away in a drawer labeled Evidence of Progress. The ripple effect. The City Council passed a motion mandating anti-bias training for all police officers, led in part by Judge Clark herself. She launched a program called Seeing Clearly, pairing law enforcement with community leaders for monthly dialogue sessions. And on a humid Tuesday evening, standing in front of a mixed crowd of officers, teenagers, clergy, and activists, Judge Clark said, "We can't undo what happened, but we can make sure it never happens again." The same teen who filmed the arrest was in the crowd, now interning with Clark's nonprofit. Justice reimagined. Months passed. The news cycle moved on. But in Brookhaven, things changed. Police stopped assuming. Residents stopped staying silent. Judge Clark didn't become a victim. She became a catalyst. In her courtroom, things looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. Her words carried a deeper weight. Her presence, already powerful, now echoed with lived experience. And every time she stepped into her black Lexus, people remembered, not the arrest, but the awakening. In a world where titles don't always protect and justice doesn't always arrive in time, it takes strength to stay calm and power to change the story. Judge Clark did both, and because of her, the next story may end differently. If this story shocked you, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video like this. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think about what happened.